Ah, there's Mark.
Hi.
Hey, how are
Hold on.
ya?
Good. How you doing? Hold on. Jen's
Excellent.
Jen's coming. She's walking the dogs.
Okay, okay. Oh,
Hi, Mindy.
Mindianners, how are you? I know everybody's on mute, so I'm talking and asking questions, and there you go. There you are.
And everyone can turn their video on if they want, or you don't have to. But we like seeing people's faces.
Mindy, I love your necklace. Dave says I always do that. I always start talking right when he walks out of the room. There's the DeLorenzos. Hello, how are you? Welcome. Oh, well, it says Todd Berman, but that is not Todd Berman. That is definitely Kyle Heidelbaugh. Oh, wait a minute. There's Todd. He had to come in out of the blur.
I don't know why my camera's not working.
That's okay. Let's see. Oh, we've got a big crowd with the Marinos. Hello, welcome.
My camera
Welcome,
should
welcome.
work because I do Zoom.
You
Oh,
just
well.
might have to turn it on, Sandra. You might just
Yes.
have to start it. If you go down to the bottom, you'll see a thing that says
Oh,
start
share screen.
start video. It should be all the way
Here,
in the bottom.
I can send a little ping to.
Oh, start my. Okay.
There you go.
Thank
There
you.
you go. No problem. The Bermans, the Heidelbaugh, and
There we
Kalugers
are.
There we go. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, girls. Hi, Deb.
All right.
This is so fun. So fun.
Wow, this is nice. So how do we do a virtual one? I don't know. They're on there. Yeah. I like that.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. We're glad you made it back from walking the dogs.
Really nice outside.
Yeah, LV. Is it luxury vinyl?
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna.
It's vinyl.
There's Adrian. Hello. A lot of familiar faces on here. All right. The Raymonds and Kyle, I can't see all the chat, so I'll let you read those.
I'm at Raymond's and the Steps and Marinos. The Bermans have the
Excellent.
Bermans, Kalugers, and Heidelbaughs.
Wow, great. What a perfect way to kick off for those of you that are football fans. Football Sunday. Very, very exciting. I know. Yeah, Kyle's a little nervous. She's a big Ravens fan.
You may see me disappear.
We have Martina joining us from Florence. Bonjour. Ciao.
Hi. See some familiar faces.
Quite the international group here.
Hello, Italy. France is here too. We're with you.
Bonsoir.
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 All right, excellent. Kyle, do we want to wait a few more minutes, or how are we doing? Are we looking like we have most folks?
Yeah, we've got a good number. Some people, it looks like, are combined into one. So I'd say go ahead and get started.
Excellent. All right. Well, I just want to welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I am Rin Caputo, and together with my husband, Dave, who's also online here.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Yeah. We own Caputo Brothers Creamery. The Caputo Brothers are actually downstairs in the basement getting ready for some big football games. They're quite the football fans. I went to Texas Tech and graduated from there in a very, very long time ago, another century ago, in fact. And so I'm a little bit of a Patrick Mahomes and de facto Kansas City Chiefs fan. But I'm always happy to see our local Ravens. We are in York, Pennsylvania. And so, happy to see all of our friends who are big Ravens fans get a win today too. So we are going to jump right in, so that we can, for those of you that are interested in getting on with football the rest of the day, we'll give you the opportunity to do that. But we are so excited. We have for years been wanting to do a virtual wine tasting. And for those of you that live in Pennsylvania, you likely know that the Pennsylvania laws on alcohol sales are bizarre, I would say. Darren, is that probably the best word to use it?
That's a great word, yes. And
Yeah,
you are correct to say that it's very, very complicated in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So when this opportunity presented, in the most exciting and, as I always like to say, Ren and Dave way, we jumped on it immediately, and we were so excited that you guys wanted to be a part of this. So it's the first ever, hopefully not the last, Caputo Brothers virtual wine and cheese tasting. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Darren and Emmanuel Miller, who are joining us live from Bordeaux, France. And we're going to get into the wine tasting with them. They're actually not, they're the winemakers as well, grape growers, the whole kit and caboodle. And we're going to get into that, but I want everybody who has not cut their cheese up to go ahead and do that now, just so it can be warming up to room temperature. Because tasting cheese, whenever you get cheese and you're doing a tasting, it should always be at room temperature, always, always, always. And so you should have been sent 2 cheeses. Both are some exciting cheeses from us. One is a brand new cheese we just actually launched at the end of last year. The cool thing about it is it's a partnership with another Central Pennsylvania company called Big Hill Cider Works. This is a multi-generational apple grower out in the Biglerville area, so out in apple growing country here in Central Pennsylvania. And the current generation is really doing their best to save the farm, and really do as much as they can to diversify how they're using the apples. And so they make pressed cider, but they also make some wonderful hard ciders. And so we were working with them at an event at South County Brewing, which we'll come back and talk about how that relates to us with Darren as well. But at South County Brewing, we did their Oktoberfest event this year. Dave and I were there, and we got to talking to the owner of Big Hill Cider Works, who we've known for years, but hadn't seen in a while. And we literally, as we were like serving up cheese and cider to everybody, they're celebrating Oktoberfest, we designed a new cheese. And we brought some of the cider back to our cheesemakers, told them what our idea was. They do what they do best, which is take the idea and make it even better. And so this is a Gouda style cheese, not unlike the Gouda Reserva that you have, but a world completely different in some ways. So we make the curds, we wash them with the hard cider. And we actually came up with the idea of infusing the hard cider with cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and then washing the cheese curds with it. And then we actually built this brand new, amazing hardwood smoker that we could smoke over applewood, and did a light smoke on it. So this is really a cheese that's meant to be, basically just eaten, in great volume. And evidently people have taken that and run with it, because we sold out so quickly, we had to make a lot more. So it's a cheese that's become very, very popular. And even if you just pick it up and smell it, you can immediately get the scent of the hardwood smoked. And then for me, there's a couple of different ways to cut this cheese. Please save all the cutting the cheese jokes. So here we go. So one thing you can do is just to cut a very simple wedge, like so. Or sometimes I like to cut and make longer sticks, like so. And when we get into the wine and cheese tasting, I'll talk about the difference as to why we want to cut in one of these ways for this particular cheese. But go ahead and pick your choice as to how you'd like to cut that up. And then only cut what you want to eat today. So if you have quite a few people there, maybe you want to go ahead and eat slice up the entire hunk of cheese. In the event that you think you're not going to consume it all today, leave a portion of it whole, because the cheese will actually last in the refrigerator a lot better as whole than it will as the slices. The slices will actually dry out. And then with the Gouda Reserva, which is the second cheese, I'm going to open that up as well. This is a cheese that when we first started doing the Gouda style cheeses, it was because Giant, a local grocer by us, wanted us to make some beer cheeses with a local brewery. And so we needed to have a Gouda base in order to make those beer cheeses. And those cheeses are usually quite young. They're just about a month old. This is the plain version that you can see here. And I actually, if you switch over I have two cameras here. One's got the cheese on it. You can see the difference. These cheeses are made in the exact same style, at the exact same process. The only difference is this cheese is only aged for a month. This cheese can be aged up to 6 or 8 months. Typically, we're somewhere between 3 and 4, but you can see a radical difference between the color and also the texture. In my opinion, our Gouda Reserva is probably the best cheese we make. It's just absolutely delicious. Again, you can cut this into wedges, but you can also, I'm gonna put my phone down for a second here. You can also crumble it. So much like you would do a Parmigiano Reggiano, into chunks. And that's a nice thing to do with the aged cheese as well. So again, go ahead and cut up a little portion of that'll warm up for you, that you can enjoy while we're doing the wine tasting. And now that we have the cheeses ready to go, I'm actually going to turn things over to Kyle for a second to show you a quick video, and then we'll get to the fun part of actually learning all about the wine and hearing from Darren and Emmanuel and getting to taste the wines. So Kyle, you want to kick off the video for us?
Yep, here we go.
Bordeaux has always been a very innovative wine region.
It's the biggest appellation area in the world.
Ma mère a accouché dans cette maison.
Oops.
Wine is probably the easiest food.
We have the same question. You are two sisters in a winery? Wow, just like if it was impossible to have two women at the head of a winery.
I always tell everybody I grew up between a cornfield and a potato patch.
You've got to figure there's a lot of very, very good wine out there that goes underrepresented.
Le raisin, il a besoin de se nourrir, à souffrir, à avoir un certain stress quelquefois.
Bordeaux today is facing a challenge.
Grand Cru Glacé are only 3% of the volume of Bordeaux, but it is maybe 60 or 70% of the image.
The difficulty for this family vineyard is to be able to adapt themselves all the time to the new distribution.
If you want to make wine in Bordeaux, you have to be able to sell wine to those countries.
The Grand Cru Glacé are very pleased that China exists at the moment because a lot of quantities are going in China.
Les Grands Crus Glacés ont tout fait pour qu'ils soient connus.
The Chinese are not the villains here. They are simply the latest in a string of new markets that have come to Bordeaux.
You can do that just like for a job or an occupation, just like a passion.
Bordeaux still means something. The name Bordeaux still has a certain cachet.
I mean, raise your hand if you want to be in Bordeaux right now.
Hey, what do you know? I am.
There you go. There you go. Well, Darren, I'm going to turn things over to you guys to, if you want to kick us off just by introducing yourselves, and then give us the background of how you got from Central Pennsylvania to Bordeaux.
Crazy. Yeah, so thank you so much. And listen, welcome to everyone. Hello, USA. And I know Italy's with us too. I said earlier, that's great. Welcome to Bordeaux. Absolutely. So this is my wife, Emmanuelle. As Rin said earlier, I'm Darren. And actually, I grew up in Southern York County in Pennsylvania. Grew up on my grandfather had a small farm there in Stewartstown, if anyone's familiar with the area, really. And had no intention whatsoever of leaving the U.S. or really leaving Pennsylvania or going very far. I actually went to school for electronics, and I was actually working at a small winery just down the road from the house to pay my bills and schooling as I was going to school. And one day the boss walked in and he said, "Hey, what do you know, Darren? Gonna have a nice young girl coming from France to have an internship." I said, "Really?" And that girl turned out to be Emmanuelle. And that's how I got to France. Again, never wanted to leave the US, never thought of leaving. Wine did not interest me one little bit until she came into my life. So you can thank her for the wines you have today. And in any case, it's been a roller coaster ride. It's been now almost 28 years that I have been in France. I left when I was 24, so I've actually lived in France longer than I lived in the US. And so Emmanuelle and I have been together since 1996. We actually met in 1994. We married in 1996, and a month later, we moved directly back to France. And I think you should tell a little bit about the history of the property here. Okay, so I joined in with the family over here in 1996. Actually, I got here, and shocker, they speak French here in France. Oh my God. I had to learn French. Okay. Guys, when you're in love, you do crazy things. Yes, and I did too. So in any case, I got here in about, I didn't speak any French. I had 2 years of French in high school, and that was zero. That was nothing, didn't help me at all, obviously. But they said, "Well, listen, here's what you're gonna do, Darren. You're gonna go in the vineyard, start working with the French people." I was like, okay. And so I had no idea what they were telling me, no idea what they're saying, but I knew what the work was. Okay, I grew up on a farm. I knew how to drive a tractor. I knew how to do manual work. No problem. I can do this. So started working with them, and they would be in the vineyard saying stuff to me. Had no idea what they were saying, and they'd roll their eyes at me. But in almost 8 or 9 months, I was actually understanding what they were saying. And in a year, I was understanding and speaking a little bit of French. And in 18 months, I was back at school here in France. I finished a 2-year degree then eventually for winemaking and grape growing. and it was off to the races. So I'll let Emmanuel speak a little bit about.
Don't you think he has a French accent when he speaks American?
My sister, I remember years back, I went back home and my sister said, "What's up with your accent?" I said, "What accent?" So yeah, I am American. I lose some of my terms and my words, but I find them when I get back. So I'll let Emmanuel speak a little bit about the family and the history of the wine.
Okay, it's been now the second generation because my parents started the winery in 1967 with only 6 or 7 acres, making already white, rosé, reds, and starting the Crémant de Bordeaux with sparkling wine. And then they focused on the wine. So when we came back with my sister, they had 2 daughters, my sister and I. We decided to come back, both of us, finally. Didn't think we would, but hey, life is crazy. And in 1997, when we came back, they already got 40 hectares.
40 hectares. So a hectare is about 2.5 acres. Okay, so you multiply that by 40 by 2.5. 90 to 100 acres they had.
Anyway, so they grew up really quickly in only 1 generation, and then we decided to buy more land, and we expanded. This is here on the right bank. When you come to Bordeaux, you'll see we have an estuary, and on the right bank, that's where we are right now. That's where we're producing the white, rosé, Creamery, and reds and Crémant. But we decided to buy another winery. We had a great opportunity to buy on the other side, on the left bank, where we're producing only red wine. And there's
33 hectares. So it's about 70, 80 acres.
Thank you. Producing only reds. So hopefully one day you'll be able to taste this wine too.
And taste that here in France. So we'll wait for you here.
Yeah. So
that's it. And today, in fact, Emmanuel, you saw in the video that we started, that was us there at the family winery, and you saw Emmanuel and her sister talking about their passion for the wine. You can't just, it's not just making wine, and we can come back to cheese and any type of product it is. When you get into it, it's funny because when I started, like I said, I wasn't interested in making wine at all. But when I got back here, and then you put your finger in it, and then you get up to your wrist, and then it like pulls you in. It's like a wood chipper, and you can't get out. Okay, so it's exciting, and it turns out that I'm more on the manual side. I love the vineyard and everything like that. My brother-in-law takes care of the winery. We help each other out back and forth. But it's fabulous. It's artisanal production of anything. It could be meats, it could be cheeses, wines, whatever. But it's so interesting. There's so many different facets to it, and it's really it pulls you in. And I was pulled in, and so it's exciting. We have, like she said, 2 different properties a day. We produce about 600,000 bottles of wine. We sell it in more than 25, 30 different countries. So Emmanuel will be in Asia quite a few times this next year, 2024, this year coming up. I'll be back in the US, and hopefully I'll meet a lot of you that are on here today. Hopefully we can get together and have a tasting or something like that, and we can meet each other. And so anyways, it's fabulous. Again, like I said, it's truly been a roller coaster ride. You get on and it's a whiplash, and you think, wow, at 28 years I've been here, and I haven't seen the time pass.
Yes, because every day, the work we have, every day is not the same day. You can work at the production, because we're a bottled estate, so we control everything. This is our own grapes that we harvest. Then we bottle, we of course vinify and age the wine, and then we bottle and we label, and we go to the different countries to sell the wine. That's why I come to the US 3 times a year to develop the market there too. But the fact is that the wine, to be a winemaker is very interesting because you can see all the process. You see the production first, and then another day you have visitors coming in at the winery because we welcome a lot of people at the winery. So people come in and then we have to stop what you're doing and have fun with them. It's like share our baby.
Like we're doing right now. We're going to do some tasting. That's what people come in almost every day. And we still had some people, not today, but there's some people coming on Sundays. But yesterday, still had people come in and they drive right up. We have a tasting with them and they buy some wine and take off. And it's fun to share. We have, and something her father-in-law said, and I'll stop then. But something her father-in-law, or my father-in-law, her father said years back, he said, I never thought that this business would have put me in touch with so many different people. It's unbelievable. And it's true. Wine transcends every social and economic level of society. And people were like myself, I was intimidated by it at first, and because I didn't understand it. And so if you're sitting there tonight and you're intimidated, you're like, I'm not sure, this and that. I know where you're at, but it's simple. You've got to keep it simple and you just have fun with it. And wine is something that, yeah, everyone can enjoy. Don't let your neighbor or your brother-in-law tell you, oh, no. Okay. All right. I'll stop there. So that's us.
That's great. And we're, I mean, what a charming story. And just to let you guys know, when Darren showed up literally on the doorstep of the Creamery a few months ago with his brother, we were like, Hannah, a lot of you, if you've ever picked up cheese from the Creamery, you know Hannah, and she's kind of like the gatekeeper. You know, when people come in and they're like, hey, I want to talk to Rin and Dave, and she kind of, vets them beforehand. And she comes upstairs and she said, there's a winemaker from Bordeaux here who was born and raised in central Pennsylvania and is now selling his wines in Pennsylvania and wants to talk to you guys. And we were like, yes, bring him up immediately. And then when Darren shared his story, you guys know that, Dave and I went on this crazy adventure, moving to Italy and starting a cheese business. Now, well, we went to Italy almost 20 years ago, and the cheese business is almost 13 years old, if you can believe it. But, we just connected with the story that you guys shared with us that day. And it just so happened that Darren said, yeah, well, my wines are actually served at South County. And we said, well, our cheese is at South County. So for those of you that don't live locally, that's a wonderful brewery here in the York, Pennsylvania area. And they serve some delicious pizzas. And because they're a brewery, they don't make their own wines. And so they carry Darren's wines and Emmanuel's wines. And so as we started, kind of going through that, we realized that some cousins of Darren's had traveled to Italy with us, and, others have, farms here in the local area. And it was just one of those small world things where immediately we found ourselves seated around a table, tasting wine, and really just being fascinated by the stories. So many times when we lead our tours to Italy, people ask us, how did you find these people? How did you come across these people? And what I always try to encourage everyone is we were just open, right? So many times, and Darren, to your point, wine can be fussy and people can make it super fussy. I remember being at a Michelin 2-star restaurant in New York City a few years ago doing a cheese making demonstration for Burrata, and they had $500,000 of wine being delivered that day for one party that was coming in that night. And I remember thinking, they're going to drink $500,000 of wine tonight? Wow. And I just think that if sometimes it's just as wonderful to sit in a vineyard in Bordeaux and to taste the wonderful wines that are being made by this family. For me, I think I would prefer that. And so, that's really what we wanted to be able to bring to you guys today. And Claret was a wine that I did not know a lot about. And I think it's a really interesting method of making wine. And the white wine, even the way the story behind this white wine is really interesting as well. So, Darren, if you want to go ahead and hop in and start taking everybody through, we can go ahead and get our bottles open. I'm going to open mine. I haven't done that yet. And you can go ahead and kind of kick things off with the tasting here.
Absolutely, yes. And I should have said earlier, you can open the bottles of wine up. That's fine. Go open them up now. That's one of the big questions that people are always concerned about. And again, I come back to my idea about your brother-in-law. Don't listen to what your brother-in-law tells you and think that he's gonna. But anyways, the wines. Everybody's saying, oh, you have different people saying, oh, well, you need to open them up so much before, or this and that. They have to air so much. Now, listen, we're going to taste the Claret and the white today. Claret and white, they aren't necessarily wines that you need to necessarily open to air out. Now, that being said, we're not tasting reds today, but reds, there could be an opportunity to open it up and make it a little better if you open up a little bit beforehand. But I didn't ask you to do that today because I didn't really think it was necessary. Now, that being said, we're going to taste some of the wine, Hopefully you have enough to hold some for a little later today. I know in the US it's about 2:30 over there. It's 8:30 over here. We're a little bit ahead of you. But as Rin said earlier, like with the cheese, you don't want to cut up a bunch of slices and let it in the fridge. It's going to dry out, okay? And we know that so much over here. I mean, we eat cheese every single day. French love their cheese. And it's the same with the wine. You don't have to necessarily open it up and let it, because it will go bad if you let it sit out. Now, that being said, the Claret, I would not open it before you're ready to drink it. The white, it's possible you could open up a little bit before, but it's not necessarily pertinent. The reds, there are times when, yes, I would open up a bottle. When I taste it, if it tastes a little closed, that you can't really smell it very well, I would just let it sit there on the counter. And we let bottles, often we let bottles sit on the counter for a day or more and come back the next day, or decant, or put in a decanter. It's actually very surprising the difference you can get from a red wine sitting just open one day and how it opens up. Okay, but that's not the fact today. So please open up your wines. We're going to start with the Claret. Want to go into the wines and
yeah,
Rin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Claret. Okay. So we're going to start with the Claret. Now, a little history about the Claret. Claret is not claret, and this is typical. This is confusing French language. So claret is C-L-A-R-E-T, claret, and we pronounce the T, and that's an English term that actually means a light red wine. So a light red wine would be something more like this. Okay, so you got the Claret here and the Claret here. It's a red wine. But that's a term that was used, that's still used by the English today, claret. It's not to be confused with claret. So claret is actually C-L-A-I-R-E-T. We don't pronounce the T at the end. And clair, C-L-A-I-R-E in French, means clear. Clair, clear. So this is claret. So it's actually a clear red wine, claret. Okay? So it's a little complicated, and the French language is so extraordinary. It really is. It's very, very particular. It's got very specific adjectives. But so this is a Claret. Now, Claret comes only from red grapes. Now, Manuel's going to help me with this. I'm going to start with this. So this, can I hold it up there? Can you see that? So Emmanuel's holding the rosé. So this is the rosé that we make. It's clear. This is the Claret, and then this is the red. Okay. Now all three of these wines are made only with red grapes, no white grapes, none at all. And so a lot of people say, "Well, how is it that you get a rosé that's clear like this, and then it's red?" That makes sense. It's very simple. So when we harvest the red grapes, We're going to crush them. We're going to destem them. We're going to crush them. We're going to put them in a tank. And in that tank, the juice is slightly pink, not even as pink as this, maybe slightly pink. You'll see a little bit of color. It's mostly white. The juice is clear in every grape. The colors are in the skins. So the longer those skins sit in the juice, the more those colors just bleed out. You can imagine like getting a grape or something, or sitting on a piece on your sleeve, a white sleeve, and just bleeds out. And then your wife yells at you because you went and messed up your shirt. Okay, I've been through that before. But anyways, the colors are in the skins. Okay, so as the skins sit in the wine, the color comes out. So this rosé will fill up a tank of red grapes. After about 12, 15 hours, we're going to pull about 10% of the juice off that tank and put in another tank. We'll do that in about 5, 6, 7 tanks until we have a full rosé tank. And the color of the juice, it's going to be a little murky because of the sediments and everything in it, but it's going to be similar to this. The end result is going to be a rosé. Now, that tank still has 90% of the juice that we only took 10% off of it. There's still more in there. So we wait to about maybe, that was maybe 12, 15 hours. So then you go to 20, 24, 30 hours maybe, and we'll pull another 10% off. Now it's this color. So as you let it sit on the juice longer, it gets darker. Okay. We'll pull about 10% more off and put another tank. That's our Claret. And then we'll let the rest sit in there for about a month as the fermentation process goes on, and you'll get the red. And that's when you have all the tannins and the deep, rich flavors that a red wine has. So it's simply a process of getting there. Claret is more or less specific to Bordeaux. There are some other regions that make a darker rosé that's something similar to the Claret, but this is basically something that was done here in Bordeaux historically. And so there's your history. The
English people used to love it. I mean,
they still do.
Yeah, and when they come to the winery, they love the Claret. And actually, I wanted to add something. Bordeaux wines are blends of different varieties. We can use only 6 varietals in Bordeaux for the red Merlot, mostly Merlot on the right bank, but we can blend it with Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Carmenère. That's it. If tomorrow I want to plant some Pinot Noir, I can, but I won't be on the appellation d'origine contrôlée. I'll be vin de table or vin de pays.
So it's not, what you're saying is it's not classified as Bordeaux. So you can't call your wine Bordeaux unless you use the official accredited varieties from Bordeaux.
So actually this rosé, this clear rosé, is made up with 50% Malbec and 50% Merlot.
And the Claret that you have today, you don't have the rosé, but the Claret that you have today, this is 50% Merlot and 50% Cabernet Sauvignon. Okay? So
cheers.
Cheers. And as we say in France, santé. Santé, which means to your health.
Santé. Santé. Now, when we tasted your wines a few months ago, we chose the Claret A because I found it to be very interesting and not a wine that's readily available. So I thought we could give folks the opportunity to try something new and learn the difference. Even I did not know the difference between Claret and Claret. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's really interesting. You guys will have some fun facts to share with your friends tomorrow at work. But the other reason I chose this is for its acidity, that little bit of acidity that it has. And we were just in the process of developing the Big Hill Cider Works cheese. The smokiness that's in that, I thought would pair really well with this. The fact that this is a young cheese, so it's very creamy. One of the benefits of having a wine that's got some acidity to it and cheese, particularly if it's a full fat cheese like this is, you get your tongue tends to get coated as you eat the cheese. The butter fat will actually adhere to the palate. And so it's hard to taste much of anything else past the first bite, unless you have it paired with a wine that either has a little bit of a bubble. So the bubble will actually, the effervescence will actually help keep the palate fresh, or a little bit of acidity. And so these two things together are kind of a perfect pairing from a cheese perspective. This would also, in fact, in Italy, the excuse me, the perfect pairing for fresh mozzarella, as you guys know, that's one of our most famous cheeses, is a sparkling red that is a very young red. And so in some ways, this kind of reminded me of that. But that's why we chose these to go together. So take a bite of the Big Hill Cider Works cheese and a bite of and a drink of the wine, and hopefully you'll find this to be a good pairing.
And just another note on the, when you said about the sparkling red, that's funny because we have sparkling whites and sparkling rosé here in Bordeaux. It's similar to champagne, but it's not champagne because we don't make the Champagne area.
Sure.
And that's something you can find on my website as well. I have some sparkling wines there, but the sparkling reds we do not have. And when you talk to French people, it's sort of, now there's many French people that are familiar with Italian wines, but that's not something that we're familiar with. And we've tasted some of these sparkling reds, as you talk about, and they are fabulous wines. We really like them. Thank you, Italy.
Yeah, yeah. The Gragnano, which is the traditional pairing with mozzarella, is a dry, nice, typically dry, sparkling red served chilled. But also, that's a little difficult to find in the United States. A nice dry Lambrusco would be something very similar. Lambrusco is the grapes that are traditionally used to make Lambrusco are also used to make balsamic vinegar. They come from the same regions. And so if you're someone who loves to drizzle a little balsamic vinegar on your cheese, then a dry Lambrusco would be something that would be something you would like as well. Darren, what other pairings, how do you, if you guys were going to drink this claret with dinner, how would you typically pair it? When would you typically drink it?
Well, this wine for us is more of a fun wine, if you will. So it's more something that's just more of a relaxing, sitting around with friends, having a drink, just to relax around the pool.
With the barbecue,
there you go.
Pasta. I know when I'm cooking, I like to have a drink.
That's right.
It, just like
you have to start drinking when you're cooking. So hey.
So yeah, it's a whenever drink.
Yeah.
It has to be chilled around 10-12 degrees Celsius. How about
Celsius? Yeah, check that out on Google. I forget my Fahrenheit scale. So. But she's touching on something that's very interesting, the temperatures. And I know I talked with Kyle about this when we were getting set up for this this Zoom meeting. I know how much Americans love cold drinks. And when I met my wife in the US, one of the first things she said was, the drinks are so cold, they burn my throat. Because, you know, we're used to having the ice and everything.
And you don't taste the taste.
Yeah,
when it's cold.
You have to understand, the colder a drink is, the less you can taste it, okay? It's just like numbing. Like if you burn yourself, you put something colder to numb it up, okay? And that's what the drink. Now, I'm not saying not to put or chill down wines. It's nice that you chill down the wines, but as they warm up to room temperature, you'll start to get smells and flavors and aroma out of them that you will never taste if they're too cold. So, and this is surprising what I'm going to say, but I will even drink white and this claret wine room temperature. That being said, you can chill it down a little bit. My wife's shaking her head. But there's a middle line of understanding. You know, if it's too cold and you can't taste it, then what's you? And I think we can come back to the cheese as well, Rin. That if it's too cold, as you said earlier, you cannot taste it exactly what there is, and that's so important to understand. And so again, find what's best for you. I'm not saying you have to drink at room temperature, but what I talked about earlier was save a little bit of the wine if you can for later this afternoon or this evening. Let it warm up to room temperature, or how you want to, and taste it again. Or in your glass, if it's too cold, just warm it up. Put your hands around the glass and just swirl it. Not too much, but it will warm up, and you'll start to get other flavors and smells and aromas out of it. And that's when you really start to enjoy the different flavors and the different smells of the wine.
Yeah. So the pairing, like we said, before the meal as an aperitif, with barbecue, with pizza, pasta, even white meat. I mean, you can have that almost with everything except beef, like red meat. But yeah, it's a fun wine to have it as.
I think it's great that you guys mentioned that you could use this even before having a meal. And I think this is something that really resonates with most Americans. As we do our trips in Italy, a lot of times our Italian counterparts that we're working with will say to us, like, it's so surprising how much wine Americans drink even before the food comes. They sit down to the table, they pour the wine immediately, and they start drinking. And we haven't even been served anything. And I think that's because we really enjoy wines like this, a Prosecco, right? That is excellent for, preparing your palate. And so, yeah, this is something that I think, again, as I had it, drank it for the first time, I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect for, I'm hanging out with my, friends on a Sunday before a football game, and we want to have a glass of wine before we get into the food. It's perfect for that. And even in the summer, I think because it's served with a little chill, it's great. This is going to be at our 4th of July barbecue this year. So and now the one thing we haven't talked about yet though, Darren, is the name of the wine. Yeah, I think that's something that's important to mention because you are a Pennsylvania winery, right?
I do have a Pennsylvania winery license. Okay, this is something a little particular. You have to understand that, as you mentioned earlier, Pennsylvania is very particular with their laws, but every state is, in fact. And it turns out that there's a lot of just to get a little technical, there's a lot of court cases that have come down over the years for selling wine across the state lines, et cetera, and this and that. And it turns out that there was a court case that actually legalized or actually opened up the market to wineries that were out of state, and out of state meaning even out of country. So in fact, our winery is based here in France, and I actually was able to acquire a Pennsylvania winery license that officially says I'm a Pennsylvania winery, which gives me the right to import the wines, store them in my warehouse, and sell them directly to all of you that are here with us today, or to restaurants and other things. Now, you couldn't do that if you just had a simple import license. So the import license only allows you to bring the wines in and sell them to distributors or restaurants, and not direct to consumer. So I've just been doing this for a few years now. It's only a few years I've had this set up. And so I'm looking to expand little by little. It's taking a little bit of time, but that's how businesses go. And so, yes, in fact, I am legally set up as a Pennsylvania winery, which gives me the opportunity, as you mentioned earlier, to sell to breweries. Breweries can buy and then resell other Pennsylvania wineries. Now, that being said, the wine is not made in Pennsylvania, but they cannot, the Supreme Court ruled, states cannot block wineries from out of state or out of country from selling their wines directly. And so the states have had to back up because they were blocking it. At one point, they were blocking that. And so now they have to back up because they know they would be taken to court and they would have to, they would be penalized for that, or it would be turned around. So yes, this is a wine. Now, Allochtone, I'm sorry, my wife's.
She's
So
keeping you
Allochtone,
focused.
Allochtone is my winery. Now, Emmanuelle and her family have a separate winery called Chateau des Tourtes. Chateau des Tourtes is a tourterelle, and tourterelle is a turtle dove. Okay, so when you come here to visit us, which I hope many of you do, you'll see that it's a Chateau des Tourtes. Here, mine is Allochtone. Now, Allochtone is actually a word that's used here in France. It actually started in Holland. It was used at Allochtone in Holland, and it has spread out all over Europe. So Allochtone is actually a word that means someone who lives in a country where they were not born. I am Allochtone. Okay.
I am autochtone.
And autochtone is Emmanuelle. She's someone who lives in the country where she was born. So Allochtone, a lot of people ask me, what is Allochtone? We don't understand that. So it's me, in fact. I am the one who's Allochtone. Allochtone is someone who lives in the country where they were not born. And so if you go onto my website, you can find it at allochtone.com. You can find all the wines that are available. You can actually, you can pick them up at the warehouse there in Stewartstown if you're close to it, or have them shipped as all the wines were for the tasting today.
And I put a link to the website in the chat, and we'll send out a recording of the whole class afterwards. And I'll make sure that their website is included in there as well. And you should have received, when you got your wines, a little sheet that had a discount code for ordering their wine. So we'll make sure that's attached in there as well, as a little reminder for you.
Does anyone have any questions about the Claret before we go into the white, the Sauvignon Blanc? I see a hand raised there with the Marinas. Yeah. If you guys unmute yourselves. There we go. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Hello,
yep.
How are you?
If I look at the wine bottle, I don't see the word Claret on there anywhere.
I think it should be on the back. If you look very closely on the back label, it should be there. I'm not sure. I don't have the back label in front of me.
Yep. Yep. It does. It says Claret wine right beside the contents,
Right.
750 milliliters, and then the alcohol is 13.5%.
Thank you, Rin. The Claret is not a variety. It's not necessarily the name of the wine. It's a type of wine. Claret is simply, as I said earlier, it's a Claret is simply between a rosé and a red wine, and that's the term we use.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Any other questions? Did we like it? Yeah, it was nice, right? We learned something new. Excellent.
So much.
All righty. We're going to learn something even more with the white wine, Darren. So you want to take us through the Sauvignon Blanc? And I love the story about I noticed on the back of the label here, you'll notice it says fermented in oak barrels, which I find this to be a really interesting part of this wine.
Yes.
And one of the reasons we selected it. So take it over.
Absolutely. So we make actually two different types of white wines here. We make a white wine that's actually just fermented in stainless steel tanks. And then another white wine that is actually fermented in the barrels you see right behind me. So right behind us, and they're full right now, we have about 40,000 bottles of wine sitting in the bottles right behind me. This is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. Now, Emmanuelle mentioned earlier, traditionally, and still today, wines from Bordeaux are blends. Okay, and that's what makes Bordeaux really interesting. I had to laugh a while back. I was in I forget what state I was in the U.S. with a distributor, and went to see a wine shop owner, and he said, "Oh yeah, we've got something really interesting here from California. It's a blend."
It's not new for us.
And I thought to myself, well, a blend. Yeah, we've been doing that for like 300 years or more. So anyways, but blends are something, okay. I know the Americans are used to varietals. Okay, I like my Cabernet Sauvignon. I like my whatever it is, Merlot, and there are a lot of 100%, but more and more, even American wine are turning to blends and blending. And the idea,
because it gives more complexity to the wine. Because Merlot gives here, actually, I'm talking about my area. The Merlot here gives the fruits, the red fruits. And for example, and when we blend it with Cabernet Sauvignon, the Cabernet Sauvignon is a varietal that is stronger with more tannins. So when you add it as a blend, it gives the tannins. So it's a good balance in between the two, and we love it. Yeah.
Now, we're not talking about reds right now, we're talking about whites. But the other white that is not aged in oak barrels, the white that we make in stainless steel tanks, and you can find this on my website as well. We have the other white as well. It's a blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. But this is something a little unique. It's 100%. It's not a blend. And we can do that if we want to, but traditionally, Bordeaux are blends. So years back, Emmanuel's father was making a lot of reds, but he had some whites as well. And he wanted to try to do something a little different. So he started with one barrel, and he put the whites in the barrel. And he uses a professional taster. We call it an enologist, onologue in French. And so that enologist came, and they help blend, and they help you taste the wines, and they're professionals. And so that enologist said, Philip, we tasted all these barrels here, but what's that one in the back corner? He said, oh, that's nothing. It's nothing. It's for me. Okay. And he came back a month later, and he says, Philip, what's that one back in the corner there? Oh no, it's just mine. Third time he comes back, he says, what's in the barrel back in the corner there? He says, well, it's a test I'm doing. I'm trying to do like 100% Sauvignon Blanc. He said, well, that's a great idea. Let me help you. And so starting from one barrel, today, right behind us here, you can see we've got about 30 barrels that are up in front of us here too. Again, it started with one barrel, and today we make 40,000 bottles. So this is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. It's harvested. We crush the grapes. We put the juice directly into the barrels, and it's fermented in the barrels. Okay. So you have two different processes. You could ferment the grapes in a tank and then put it in barrels after it's done. But we don't do that. We put it in the barrel and it's fermented in there. And why do we do that? It's important because there's a whole complex chemistry that goes on in there that we don't even understand what goes on yet. But basically what they have, they call monoproteins in the barrel and in the grapes itself. And when it's fermenting in that barrel, it actually helps protect the wine and give it elements that help it to age. So most white wines you should drink in a couple of 3 years. They're just traditional wines like we have in the stainless steel tanks. But this wine you can keep and age just like a red. Okay, so I'll go a little more in depth if you want to.
This is a 5-year-old white wine, guys, that you're drinking. This is a 2019.
And
by the color.
And excuse me, Rin, and
yeah,
we regularly have bottles that we have here that are 10, 12, 15 years old of white. They are fabulous. And this is what people are amazed when they taste this wine and see the age of some of them. And we actually have even had customers that came back with bottles they bought years back and shared them with us that we don't have exactly that vintage. And so it's really interesting. So basically what happened, and please taste the red wine as I'm talking. Don't wait for me to get done. But basically what you can do, and I'll show you here, we've got this is actually one of the tools of our trade here. So this is, I don't know if you can see it very well, this is a curved stainless steel tool that we actually, you can see that this actually slips into the barrel. And when it gets into the barrel, then it turns
at the bottom,
and it gets to the bottom, and you have light sediments in that barrel. And in fact, those sediments have what I said earlier, the monoproteins. Those are the elements that help protect that wine and make it better for aging. And so in each barrel, we'll go and dip in, and every day we'll scrape the bottom, and it'll mix up, and the wine will be clear. And as we mix it up, it'll look like it's almost milk. It's a milky type of solution. And those are the proteins that are in there protecting that. And again, we don't know everything, all the chemical reactions. It's still, with everything we know today, we still don't understand how the wine reacts and how it ages and everything. But yeah, there's traditions that have been used for many years that proved very, very, very well.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I mean, I happen to adore wine in general, but it's always so interesting when I discover new methods. Barrel fermentation, I think, is something that's quite unique and not something that you often see. And so I think, as soon as I tasted this white wine, I was just amazed. I could not believe that this was a 5-year-old wine, a white wine. I couldn't believe it. And it was so interesting. And there's each sip that I take, I thought it was perfectly paired with the Gouda Reserva, because the Gouda Reserva's got a lot of that like chicken bouillon kind of flavor in it. And you get a little bit of the saltiness, and there's a lot more complexity to the cheese than we found in the first cheese, which was just a little creamier. And so the cool thing about it is this is a white wine that will really stand up to this. The Gouda Reserva is a great cheese, and it'll kind of stand up to anything. You can really kind of use it with just about any wine. It's great in that way. But I'm always amazed when I discover, like I said, something new. And this was something that just felt really unique. And then when Darren told us the story about the label and the name of this wine, Darren, I don't know if that's something you feel comfortable sharing, but that this is a stained glass, right?
That's fine. Yeah, that's true. No, this is you all have the bottle there in front of you, but you can see this is a stained glass window and type of church ensemble here. Yeah, so the a lot of times labels for a lot of producers, they have the story behind it, and this one does in particular. And I was saying earlier about I'd gotten here to France and I was surprised. Hey, they speak French. Hey, what do you know? And but the first few years were a bit difficult for me because you have to imagine leaving your country, leaving your friends, family, and everything that's dear to you. For someone that I loved dearly, but still, you were leaving something that was dear to you as well. And quite honestly, I had a difficult time for the first couple, 3 years. And my grandmother passed away, and that was the first time I had to go back to the U.S. and for her. And it was a frustrating time in my life, and I had a lot of questions. What am I doing? Why am I here? What's going on? And a lot of people ask those questions, I think, at certain points in their lives. And I actually came home here, and I had gone to church about 2 weeks later by myself, and the priest says at one point, we're going to bless the new statue that we have setting up here in the church, Saint Marguerite. And my mind just sort of went blank. I just couldn't understand what was going on. My grandmother, her name was Marguerite, and so it shocked me, and I don't remember anything else that happened or what was said. But after that day, I just had the feeling that my grandmother was saying, why are you trying to go home? This is your home now. You are home. And so for me, this was something that I had for me, I felt so much better. 2 months later, we found out that Emmanuelle was pregnant with our first daughter. And so for me, it was that it made home. It made something for me. This was my roots now. This was my roots were in Pennsylvania, but now they came in here to Europe. So for me, this was a sign that hey, you're home. Let's go from here.
I mean, that is it's beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I think, yeah, it's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you for asking.
It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful, yeah. A lot of times when people, like you said, come to visit, we have people come to the creamery A lot of the folks on the Zoom today are folks who over the years have spent a lot of time hearing our stories. And I think that's what makes the cheese. My husband Dave always says limoncello tastes best when you're sitting in a lemon grove and on the Amalfi Coast, because it's the experience and the story that comes with it too.
Yeah.
And I think your wines are beautiful and delicious. And the next sip that I take of this white wine is going to taste that much better because you shared that story with us. So I think it's really, really pretty cool. So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you. And so we're tasting the white today, St. Marguerite. Now there is another one on the website. It's the same exact label, but it's a red wine. So both of them are wines. This is in barrels. And there's another red wine that is in barrels as well. And you can find it on the website if you like some red wines as well.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions on the white wine? I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am, because I find it to be super interesting. Mark, did you have a question?
I do, Darren. Sorry, my wife's her parents just got here, so we're running back and forth.
That's fine, no problem. You want to jump back to the claret?
Well, she's taking a wine and cheese up, so.
Okay, no problem. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm fine.
No, so great. Yeah, I mean, wonderful story. Thank you. Love the wine. This is, very
fabulous.
Love it. So stupid question. The barrels, are they new oak or are they
Good question.
Aged or already used oak? What do you
Absolutely. Great question. And again, I don't go into detail too much until people really ask the question. So if you all have questions, ask. I'll answer anything. And if I can't answer it, I'll find out. Okay. But yes, very good question. In fact, the barrels behind us are actually 300-liter barrels. Now you have to understand that in Bordeaux, that's not necessarily traditional. Traditional barrels are 225 liters. Okay. So they're a little bigger than the normal barrels, but there's a reason for that, because barrels are made, most barrels are made of oak. You can have other types of wood as well, but these are oak barrels behind us. And they tend to give off different flavors from the wood, vanilla, chocolate, different flavors like that, okay, depending on reds or whites or whatever. And sometimes they can be overpowering. What we don't want to do is overpower the wine. So as you have here in the white, we like that it's a fruit, okay? The grape is a fruit, and we want to keep that free flavor and everything, but yet we want to make it more complex. So with the 300-liter barrels, we don't have as much barrel surface compared to the wine that's in it as you would with the 225 liters. So it's a little less. And so yes, to your question about, do we change them? Yes, we do. These are brand new. They were brand new. We bought them last fall, just before the harvest. And so this has 2023 harvest in them. And we'll take that out in about 7 to 8 months. Okay, it's just going to stay in there for a short period of time. It's not going to stay for a full year. 7 to 8 months, depending. We'll taste it eventually, and we'll pull it out and put it back in the tanks and then bottle it. And we will use these then to transfer over to, if you see the door a little further behind me here, going through that door, you go into the red barrel room, and that's a larger room where we age our red wines in barrels. And so these will be taken back over there. The second year they'll be used, second and third year they'll be used for reds, and then we will resell them to the barrel maker, and we'll get new ones. And every year we're bringing new ones in here. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
A barrel costs around 600 euros. One barrel.
Wow.
That's a big cost for us, but that's the result.
It's a big investment, but yeah, you do get the result afterwards.
This is Marinos. I assume it's all new French oak.
Yep.
These are our new French oak. Absolutely.
The oak comes from east of France. The best oak from France
is in the eastern part of France.
Yep.
Okay.
It's called La Forêt de l'Allier.
Now, what's really interesting though about the oak, and I don't know everything about the barrel making and everything, but I was talking with a barrel maker one day, and I said, well, what's the difference between American and French oak? Because we have both, and we do have some American oak that we use for our reds, not for the whites. The whites are only French. And he said, it's funny because depending on the type of land and the climate where that tree grows, they'll grow faster or slower. And he says, in the US, they tend to grow faster, and therefore the pores are wider in the oaks. They crack open wide, and they let off more of that oak flavor. So a lot of times, in France, or conversely, in France, they grow slower. So the pores, they're a lot tighter, and they don't let off so much of that oak flavor. So, which is the reason why a lot of the producers will use a majority French oak and a lower portion of American oak. So a lot of times it's 80 French, 20 American, or whatever. That's up to the producer. So it's very interesting. I don't know if any of you are cigar smokers. Tobacco grows differently and gives different flavors depending on what kind of soil and climate they have. It's the same with wine. And this barrel maker explained to me, it's the same with trees. So it's very interesting. We're working with Mother Nature, and that's what's so interesting about this whole idea of winemaking, or whatever it might be, just anything that's artisanal. It's very interesting. It's great.
That's true. If we would use American oak, I'm sure the final result would be different. We won't have the same flavors again. So yeah, that's very interesting. And we didn't talk about the pairing for this wine. We have many aperitif at home before the meal.
Again, as you were saying, Rand.
Yep.
So that's what we are using most of the time, this white, because it goes with everything, tapas, charcuterie, cheese, all kind of stuff. And then you can follow it. We have appetizer, because in France, the meal is saccadé, how to say?
Yeah, you have, I'm trying to find the word.
Courses.
Courses, thank you.
Yep.
And so we have the beginning, the appetizer first. So it could be charcuterie, pâté, snails, escargot. It goes well with that too. We tried them with scallops. It's delicious.
Scallops.
That's delicious.
Yes.
Foie gras. I don't know if you're familiar with foie gras,
Sure,
but here it's like, yeah. And it goes well because normally we match it with sweeter wine, but it seems like a sweet wine, actually, this wine, but it's not sweet at all. It's less than 2 grams per liter in this per liter. So it's a dry wine, but it seems sweet in your mouth. So it's a good pairing with the foie gras. So, and then we can follow the meal, the second courses with chicken or fish, cooked fish, more like with a sauce or grilled fish, cheese, of course, all kind of cheeses, and even dessert, chocolate or with nuts.
Oh, this would be great.
So,
Yes.
yeah, you can follow this wine from the beginning until the end of your meal. That's very interesting.
And it's an interesting point when she said, these are all dry wines. Okay, both of them are dry wines. All of our wines are dry. And dry in Bordeaux in France means less than 2 grams of sugar per liter. Okay, so you have about 2 little peanut sizes of sugar in the bottom of the bottle of sugar. That's it. That's it. And some people will actually think, oh, well, this is sweeter. It's a slight sweetness. No, it's not. In fact, they're dry wines. But because of their complexity, or because of the claret is fruity, have berry flavors or cherry, and it rounds out the flavors of it. And then the white as well, it's the complexity of it. You think that sometimes it's sweeter than some of the wines that you taste, but they're not sweet. They're actually dry.
It even, as it's opening up, I'm finding even like the honey, like it's just got that that velvetiness that you get with honey. It feels like that's coming through as well. So
again, what's interesting is, like I said earlier, smell it now when it's chilled coming out, and then warm it up in your glass, and you'll have the flavors, just the smell and the flavors just open. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
grilled, vanilla flavors. Like you
Yes.
said, honey. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's a blend of all these flavors. And you can. I'm sorry.
I was just
You
going
can.
to say, I feel like if people are white wine drinkers, sometimes we'll have people come and travel with us and they'll just be like, oh, I only drink white wine. I feel like this would be a wine that they would absolutely love because it gives complexity. It goes with so many different things, that this is a white wine drinker's wine.
You know what? We have a game in France when visitors are coming. We have dark black glasses and we pour some different wines into the glasses. And this wine, they think it's a red wine. That's amazing.
It is amazing because we don't realize how much we use our sight and our smell and everything together, combination. And like she's saying, we have these dark glasses. You can't see the color of the wine. And people think that this is a red wine. It's unbelievable. Yep, you got to do it. Got to try it.
We have a question that came in from the chat from Todd. He wants to know, what is the saturation loss of alcohol in the barrels once the wine is aged?
The saturation? I'm sorry?
Loss?
What is the saturation loss of alcohol in the barrels?
Good question. I don't know the percentage exactly. I know we call that in French le part des anges. So that's the part of the angels.
It's like 2 to 3%.
Yeah. And there is, in fact, yes, I'd have to ask my brother-in-law that because I know that actually we have the right to write that off as loss of wine. So there is an evaporation rate. I'm sorry, I do not know the
Yeah, I think it's between 2 and 3.
It would be low, yes, 2-3%, if that.
But cognac, for example, spirits or the part des anges, like the loss is even more.
It's even more. Yep. And that is a big loss because when, especially cognac, now we don't keep the wine in the barrels for that long. I said 7-8 months here and then put it back in the tanks. For the reds to stay in for a year and a half. But cognac can stay in the barrels for years, and I mean decades sometimes. And they lose a certain percentage every year, and that could be enormous loss. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly the percentage, but it would be low, it would be 2-3%, I think.
And actually what we do with the loss, because otherwise we have to top the wine.
Top it up, we top the barrels, yeah.
Once a month. Otherwise, if you let it like this, the wine could be oxidized. So like vinegar.
So as he was saying, yes, there is an evaporation rate, and so they'll go down. So every month, we're gonna go back in and top up just a little bit, just to make sure they're filled up.
Yep.
Were there any other questions? Yeah, there you go. Any other questions?
Yeah, no, they're unmuted.
Yes.
Ask the question. We were asking about Caputo Brothers, the store. Is it open now, or when will it be open, or is it going to be open?
Good question. For those of you that remember the old retail shop that we had, and even the dining room, when COVID hit, we went to curbside pickup, obviously, because that's what everybody did just for protection. But we also we had these big retail events that happened online and through Good Morning America. And we also became a contract manufacturer for a large dairy company in India, where we make all of the paneer, which is like a dairy-based tofu that goes to Australia and New Zealand and Canada and the UK. And so what used to be our dining room is now our packaging facility for all of these cheeses. And the retail shop became warehouse and eventually office space for our expanding workforce. And so we do have a retail option. It's still curbside pickup, but Hannah, who I mentioned earlier, who manages that process, was just given a large television screen, and she's been working on digital menus and actually being able to set up the ability to taste so that people can come into her area and actually get the cheeses. So that is something we're working on. But as of right now, essentially, if you go on the website and you place the order, you can just skip the shipping and say curbside pickup, and then Hannah will have the order pulled for you. We have just last week, we had some folks meet with Dave and I who would like us to put a cheese tasting room in York. I know that Darren is going to be in the area in February, and would like to look at having a tasting room, maybe with his wines and our cheeses. And we are finally, after 4 years, almost 4 years to the day, we are doing a little pop-up event in downtown York. So we're starting to explore those things. With me, there's no short answers. We're starting to explore some of those ideas. We would love to have a retail option and offering, somewhere we could do classes and events and that type of thing. But right now it's just kind of slow going as we still kind of navigate. Different parts of the business took off during COVID, and then we pulled out. The travel was born, its own travel. We have our own travel company. This year we'll do 15 tours. Next year we're actually looking to add Bordeaux. And so Kyle and Darren are actually working together to put together a Bordeaux tour that we'll be launching in 2025. I think it's already sold out, and we haven't even planned it yet. So that's growing, and then we have custom cheese making. We just got reached out. The Albertsons group, so Acme and Safeway, wants us to start making beer cheeses for them. So things are busy all over the place, but it is a goal and an objective for us to get back to having a place where we can do these things in person instead of continuing to just only do things virtually. But we'll see. We'll get there. We'll try.
Thank you very much. We're just looking for an advantage so that, we live close by. We'd like to be able to get your cheeses more direct.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we appreciate the support. Yeah, it's the past 4. Can you guys believe it's been 4 years? I can't believe it's been 4 years since COVID started, but we're still I think 2024 hopefully is finally going to be the year where we're not worried about it anymore, and we're just moving forward and getting some cool stuff figured out. So the first of those things is the big pop-up event on the 16th and the 17th, and I'll share that Darren is actually going to be there with us, and he's going to be pouring wine.
Be there. Please come out. Please come out. Love to meet you all.
Yeah, so we're excited to be doing more of those things as we move forward. So
absolutely, and I hope I can be a part of it as we move forward. We can be a part of it as you move forward. We'll work with you.
It's just cool that we have a Bordeaux winemaker in central Pennsylvania. It's like it blows my mind. I'm still just so excited.
If I could just excuse me, Ren, if I could just the Merino group that just mentioned about buying stuff directly, I want to say that's great. I think we need to all understand that we need to support our local businesses and those who are producing directly. We need to understand that these are the people that are going to allow us to break away from the big corporate structure, et cetera, and this and that. I don't know if you've seen recently, the farmers in Europe have been protesting quite a bit. It started in Holland last year. It wasn't very much media coverage on that. And then it spread over into Germany, Spain, recently France, and then into Italy. And these farmers they have a stranglehold on them. And that being said, Rin and David have created a business that actually allow these producers to have a better price on their milk. So they're making the cheese, obviously, out of the milk. And that's what's important. It needs to be a very local economy, and we need to support them. And in supporting them and other producers, whether it be chickens, beef, whatever, go to your local producers. This is what we need to keep our community strong. Okay, and I'll get off my soapbox, but I don't know if you saw the recent protests in France. It was quite a exciting show of force. So in any case, support local companies like Rin and David. They are doing what we need to keep our community strong. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. We appreciate that. And certainly the folks on this call definitely always are, and we always appreciate that. Does anybody have any other questions? I know it's getting really late for you guys there. Kyle, do we have an update on the Ravens Chiefs game?
The Ravens just scored to tie it up, 7-7.
Yeah,
7-7.
we're watching Kyle's reaction. We're like, oh, she saw that. The question my wife had, I'm going to be out of town for the pop-up event.
Very mean.
Are you guys doing anything else?
We don't have anything else planned. My wife will not be there. I'll be there in February, and I'll be with Rin and Kyle and David and whatever they have organized there. But there is nothing else planned. No. Again, as Rin said, with COVID and everything, it was very difficult to try to plan stuff, organize stuff, and I have to admit that this has been a business that I started just before COVID, and bam, COVID hit. So it's been difficult getting things going. I've had the opportunity and the fabulous chance of meeting them and more or less piggybacking on what they've got going, and we hope we can work together and for each other's benefit and keep things going. So no, I don't have anything else. That being said, if I could just mention, if you'd like to buy the wines, you can go online at allochtone.com. I know Kyle put the link up in the chat earlier, allochtone.com. You can buy the wines and have them shipped to you. If you're close to Stewartstown, you can still pick them up at the warehouse. You just click on pick up at the checkout. That being said, I am changing warehouse spaces here soon. Again, so it's a little delicate, but don't forget, you've got, and we spoke about this earlier, you should have all received one of these promotional flyers as well. It's actually, if you go and you buy 6 bottles or more through the end of February, okay, great. You've got, and don't forget to use the promo code FEB 2024. You've got to put that in to get your 15% off, and this is exclusive for you. But you can share it with your friends and family, neighbors, and whoever like the wines. Please promote that. And but anyways, yes, we'd love to meet you all. Sorry you'll be out of town when I'm there, but next time around we'll do it.
What was the question on the 17th? What and where was that event?
Oh yeah, so that is. So you're gonna hate this, but it's already both are already sold out. So they're like a pop-up. We have so many people asking us about the old farm to table events that we used to do. Let me say those right. Farm to table dinners that we used to do that were 5-course dinners there at the Creamery. That since we got rid of the dining room, we haven't been able to recreate. So there's a great little club. It's in the most bizarre place at the York Revolution Stadium, but we're friendly with the folks who run the Rev Stadium, and so they're gonna be so generous and kind to let us use their beautiful kitchen and really quite nice facility that they have there to put on a pop-up event that'll allow us to do not exactly like what we could do because the space won't allow for that, but to recreate something very similar to what we used to do. So we're going to do 2 nights, the 16th and 17th of February. They sold out in a couple of hours. And I have promised Kyle, who organizes these things for us, that I would not say that we're going to be doing them from now on. Also Dave, who cooks them. But we're gonna test it out in February, see how it goes. And is it reasonable to say that we may do more in the future if this goes well, Dave and Kyle? Maybe.
There may be future events happening, yes. We did have a
For,
question.
There's always possibilities.
Right.
We did have a question. Can we buy your wines at Fine Wines and Spirits in Pennsylvania?
Okay, very good question. Now, those are what we commonly call the state stores. So the state stores in Pennsylvania do not carry my wines. I could have them carry my wines if I wanted to. It's a long process, and bottom line is it's difficult to get in there, depending on your pricing and volume. So you probably will not be able to find me in the near future, or the long future. So no, the short answer is no, I will not be you can't find my wines there. But again, you can find them online and have them shipped. But going forward, I'm hoping that, as Rin mentioned earlier, that we can work something together and have some type of retail solution there in York. That would be a fabulous opportunity for me and everyone else.
Agreed. All right, guys. Well, again, like I said, I think that you guys, it's getting late there, so we don't want to keep you up too much later. But I just want to say thank you so much for making beautiful wines, B, sharing your wonderful story, C, showing up on our doorstep and tasting wines, and and to our cheesemakers who really do just such an incredible job. Hopefully you guys, I have been over here chunking the Gouda Reserva and eating it, and it's just so good. It's so good. And it's funny, Dave and I were at a Christmas party we got invited to in December, and we showed up and they had a whole cheese board out on the buffet, and in the middle of it was one of our cheeses, and I was like, do you think that's our cheese? And Dave was like, I think it's our cheese. And so we tasted it. It was so good. And I was like, it's great to know that. I mean, look, we eat a lot of our cheeses. And, I guess it's not humble to say we make good cheese, but we do make good cheese. I'm so proud of it. And it's always exciting to find wonderful pairings. And I'm telling you, this is like my new favorite white wine. I don't care that it's not Italian. And I'm going to be drinking this Claret all summer long, and perfectly pairing it with fresh mozzarella. So keep your eye out for updates on the Bordeaux tour. I know that Kyle's going to be over there in April, and there's going to be a lot of planning going on. There's talk of incorporating cognac because that region is close to you guys. We have spent a lot of time in Bordeaux, and the actual downtown area. There's incredible, in fact, the boys still talk about the meal that we had there at a place called Chez Dupont. And Giovanni had like foie gras 5 different ways. And when he ordered it, this was pre-COVID. Look at you guys, you're empty. I love it. Bravo, Adrian. Bravo. But anyways, we're excited about the opportunity to expand into France. And Martina, I know Martina is our senior tour leader in Italy, and I know she's going to be working with you guys as well. So we're so excited about this partnership. So excited about finding you, or you finding us. Thank you. And
Thank you. We have my wife and I, and we have talked about this trips for Americans here to Bordeaux for years, and I have never been able to find the right person or group or whatever to work with. And I think, again, this is another thing. We can talk about the wines and cheeses in a retail shop in New York. That's an opportunity, and the trips coming here is another one. And so we've got so many things to work together with. And for all of you here tasting the wines and the cheeses tonight, stick with us. We've got a lot to show you. This is going to be a great opportunity. So please come to France.
Awesome.
We'd love to see you.
Awesome. Salute. Tell me again how I say it in French. Santé. And go Ravens. right, Kyle? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
My wife says, "What's the Ravens?"
I know.
I'll explain later. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bizarre reference to Poe, right?
It is. Exactly.
Yeah,
It is
there
actually.
you go. Yeah.
All
But
right.
thank you
Take
so
care.
much,
Go
everyone.
Ravens.
There you go. And we'll see everyone soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank